Hey everybody, it's Jim here. In the spirit of both the UEFA Champions League and March Madness, I have decided to hold a tournament of all of my guitars going up against each other to see which one will come out on top. This is going to be a series of 4 different videos. Today is going to be the second half of the preliminary rounds where we have some very interesting matchups. A few things of note before we dive into this. All of the seating was done by the computer, so some of these guitars going up against each other, maybe if it was actually seated properly or by price, it wouldn't be the case so early on, but it is what it is. The second thing is we're only going to be using 1 amp and 2 pedals. We're going to be using the Brown Amplification Protein if we're going to be adding any drive, and if we want any reverb or tremolo depending on the guitar to bring out some of the strings, it will be from the Source Audio True Spring. Finally, I just want to set some expectations for you guys when it comes to the sound comparisons. You're only going to be hearing about 1 minute each per guitar per matchup because this would be way too long, and I'm doing this all pretty much off the cuff on my end. However, if you do see a guitar or you hear a guitar that you'd like to hear more from or learn about, there will be videos in this section of the screen during that guitar's playthrough where you can click, and that guitar has an individual video already dedicated to it. Today, I'm just going to be making kind of a judgment call, so to speak, and we'll be moving on from there. First matchup is one heck of a doozy. This is the play-in match. If you filled this out on your bracket, I'm very interested to see which one you chose because I'm not sure which one's going to win it. We have the Gibson ES-335 against the Momose MJG. Okay, I love offset guitars, I love Jaguars. Between the two of these, it's apples to oranges, really, but the whole purpose of this is for me to pick my favorite between the two of them. Build-wise, I think this one's definitely better. It feels great. You really notice it when you sit and you play with this guitar. It's something else. It's not like what you get out of a production Fender guitar or other brands like that with the Momose. The Gibson, it sounds awesome. It's really unique. I don't have many other instruments like it, and maybe that plays a role in this decision. Maybe it doesn't, but I think the thing that really tips the scales, despite the fact that this is a bit smaller than this guitar, the Gibson, this weighs a bit more. And when I sit and I play this guitar for longer than 15-20 minutes, it really digs into me, and it kind of is what it is. I prefer a little bit of a lighter instrument, and there are other Jaguars out there, and maybe one day I'll find a lighter version of one of these Momoses, because outside of the weight, this thing is as good as it's going to get. This round goes to the Gibson ES-335. The next matchup is between two of the flashiest guitars I have, the Fender American Vintage 65 Jazzmaster reissue and the Fender Japan Super Thinline Deluxe Telecaster. Really good. I got a little carried away. I didn't know what I was going to play, and I love this guitar. This guitar has been with me for over a decade, the Pure Vintage 65 Jazzmaster, and I really like this one too. I wasn't sure how I was going to go about this one, to be honest, because this is like brand new. I've only had this for a few months, and I really do love it. It's something that is so unique in so many ways, and it's very comfortable to play. But if you're asking me to pick a favorite, which is the purpose of all of this, straight off of the bat, I thought it was going to be that one. Out of the two of them, it's Goldie over here. It's a Jazzmaster. So that will be moving on in the bracket. Next up is going to be the Surf Green Cory Wong Stratocaster going up against the 77 Albatross. This guitar is out of this world good. There's a few things I really love about the Cory Wong Stratocaster before I talk about this one. It feels great for a modern guitar, and it's kind of changed my perspective, honestly. I've been a vintage style player when it comes to Fender instruments forever, really. And anytime the specs deviate from the 7¼ inch radius, I don't end up keeping that guitar all that long. But with this one, it's practical, it's useful, it's inspiring to play, it sounds great. I really like a lot about it, but unfortunately for that guitar, it came up against this one. This is such a freaking special guitar. I'm very interested to see how I feel playing this against some of my other higher up kind of guitars that I consider to myself, and seeing how it ends up at the end of all of this. But for this specific matchup, man, the guys who handmade this in Nagano, Japan, aces, absolutely aces. 77 moves on. Time for the first David and Goliath matchup of this tournament. The Epiphone Sheraton that was made in Korea versus the Gibson R9 Les Paul Standard 59 reissue. What can I say? The R9 is the R9. This is an outstanding freaking guitar. Very fortunate that this early on in the bracket we didn't have the R9 versus the Albatross, because I'd be in a tough spot. But I have to say, that Epiphone sounds really good. And if you're looking for a cheap jazz box, you don't have to worry about changing out the electronics. It's got a really cool tone for that, and I thought that was a really good kind of play style to go with for that little example. But the winner is the Gibson R9. We've made it to the final match of the day. The Gibson won the play-in round and got the privilege of facing off against this SX Stratocaster style instrument. I believe it was made in the early 2010s or potentially just the late 2000s. We'll start with this one, and then we'll go over to the 335 and we'll wrap it up for today. It's actually pretty good. I will say, before I even plug in the Gibson, I think something we're going to do later on down the road, we're going to compare that SX with the Fesley and with the Squire, my very first guitar, which you'll be seeing in the next installment of this series, Stratocaster, and seeing the real budget tier of S-style guitars and which one I feel comes out on top between those, because those are very, very evenly matched and evenly priced. I don't even want to know how many of these you could buy for the price of one of these, but I digress. Let's get to it and call it a day. No, let's just play the same exact thing. A little bit of a different vibe, a little bit of a different tone, and overall it was really strange switching from this guitar to this one just because of the nut width and all that stuff, the thickness of the neck. However, I was surprised by that guitar, and I still am based on that neck. I think it's a really, really decent feeling instrument, but what am I going to do? What am I going to lie? I like this one just a little bit more. We've now completed the first half of the round of 16, and the bracket has been updated accordingly. On the next video in this series, we'll be doing the same exact thing we did today, including another play-in match. However, we'll be down to 8 at the end of it all. After that, we will have our quarterfinals and then one final video that has both the semifinals and the final to crown the champion of this tournament kind of fun idea that I had. If you enjoyed this, if you're looking forward to more, and if you're playing along, you filled out a bracket, remember, you're entered to win a prize depending on how well you do, and God forbid anybody gets a perfect score. Not only will that blow my mind, but you'll be a very, very happy camper indeed. Thank you all for watching. Feel free, if you didn't participate in the now closed kind of predictor, to leave your comment down below of which guitar was your favorite of the ones that we played today, or which guitar you think is going to win it all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take it easy, everybody.